Morning. Today what we're going to talk about is adjusting the eccentric rollers on the 6550 Pro. There seems to be some confusion on that and a little bit of a misunderstanding on just how greatly that can impact the performance of your machine and even its general movement. So I'm going to take a look at the X-axis assembly and one of the Y-axis assemblies and go over those with you. So this is our X-axis. We can see that there are two rollers that are just a standard spacer, but then we also have two that are the eccentrics. Now, a little bit of a tidbit on these eccentrics. You'll notice that this eccentric does not have the hole dead center in it. What this allows it to do is this little sleeve part of it here fits in the hole in the plate. And as you rotate this, it moves the center axle of the roller farther away from or closer to the rail as you spin it. And that's how we adjust our eccentrics. Another thing is each of these eccentrics has one face on it that has a notch cut in it. That's just for a reference, and that's actually going to be the farthest offset. So I've taken this X-axis assembly and I've got it to where my notches are farthest away from the rail, so they're the most offset. So I'm going to have the most amount of slop in this. And if I run it onto this rail, you can see that I've got a lot of movement like this. And since this is that surface your laser is going to mount on, it can get quite a ways out of square. It also has some wobble side to side. If you were to grip your laser and try and twist it like this, you would find that it has quite a bit of play in it. Definitely not what we want. So what I always do when I'm assembling one of these is I set my eccentrics just using a piece of rail. I've actually got this clamped to the table, so it doesn't go anywhere. I can just sit here and work with it with both hands. I set my axis on there. In fact, let me turn this around so you can see it just a little bit clearer. There we go. So we can see that wobble there. In your toolkit, you'll have a 3mm Allen wrench. And you'll also have a little combination wrench, got an 8mm and a 10mm. The 8mm will fit these nuts that lock everything down here, and the 10mm will fit the eccentrics. So in a lot of cases, the eccentric can be rotated without having to loosen the screws. In the event you do need to, just hold your nut, take your 3mm Allen wrench, and you don't want to give it a lot of looseness. Just a little bit is all it takes. You just want to be able to move that eccentric. So what I do is I take the 10mm Allen wrench and I rotate these eccentrics, and I'm going to rotate them about one flat each in the same direction. Still got some wobble, so I'm going to go a little bit further, and you'll actually get to where you can kind of feel that it's tightening up. So I've got them fairly tight now. Notice I have no more wobble. I'm actually flexing that entire beam. I'm not twisting my laser mount, but I can still move this smoothly along my rail just with one finger. Let me bring it on here sideways so you can see. I no longer have that twisting capability, so I'm running nice and smoothly on there. Once you've done that, if you did have to loosen your lock nuts, just go ahead and tighten everything back up real quick. That way you know your eccentrics aren't going to start to turn if they get any resistance later on down the road. So our X carriage is now ready to install. For the Y carriages, they are constructed much the same way. Got one set of just regular spacers, but the difference is where these eccentrics are mounted, you'll notice there's an eccentric on either side. We want to make sure that we adjust those at the same time, or what will happen is you'll end up with this wheel, instead of being straight, it will start to do this a little bit. I'm exaggerating the amount that it's going to move, but if you have this side set to closer to the rail and this side set to farther from the rail, that roller is going to cock in there a little bit like this. You're not going to move smoothly, and it's going to actually cause the rollers to wear down faster. Same basic concepts. You've got your Allen screw here, lock nut on this side. We've got our little indexing marks set here. I've got them set again to the farthest away. So I get this wobble. I also get that little bit of twisting wobble. And here, let me pivot it again so you can see it. So if I'm sitting here with my y-axis like this, it's only a few degrees of movement. What you have to take into account is at the other end of that x-axis, that few degrees right here is going to be a couple of centimeters at the other end, potentially. So you could have your entire machine skewed. That's why we always suggest setting these before we assemble the machine. So again, I'm going to do the same thing, but now when I rotate the eccentrics, I'm going to rotate this one flat and this one flat. This one and this one. Still loose. Continue making those same adjustments, making sure we move them evenly. We don't want the wheels to be cocked in there. So now I had to move that 2 flats, so about 1/3 of a turn. I no longer have the wobble, I no longer have the twist. If I mount it on here so you can see this, I don't have that twisting right here that's going to impact the other end of my x-axis especially. So again, once you have those set, if you did have to loosen your lock nuts, just a little bit of tension. Like I said, you're going to loosen these not even a half a turn, not even a quarter turn. Maybe a 1/16 of a turn even is all it takes to give you the movement you need. Again, I should be able to move this smoothly with one finger, not a lot of resistance. If you get it too tight, it's going to make it very difficult for the motor and belt to move this assembly. Once you have these all set, all 3 of them, then you'll want to continue with the assembly of your machine. If you are dealing with this after assembly and you are having issues with your y-axis carriages being uneven, you are going to want to loosen the screws holding the x-axis bar between the 2 y carriages. Make sure you get them both set evenly. You can use a clamp, something that'll butt against them so that they can't move. Get them set properly so you take all the wobble out with your eccentrics, and then retighten your x-axis to make sure your machine stays square. Again, if you have any questions or any problems with your machine and need assistance, please send us an email at support@yorahome.com, and a technician will be more than happy to assist you with getting your machine squared away. Thank you.